So welcome back. We've got a second conversation happening now to think about what we've learned from the first phase of the assembly organising and Humanity Project. Probably still mostly thinking about the sort of from late 23 to mid 24 kind of time period. But as I said in the first video, I've been thinking about this for what feels like now quite a long time. We've been working towards trying to do the work together. But mostly the learnings are going to be stuff that's come out of like actual assemblies that happened and thinking about that first phase of sort of support and delivery. So Ruth, do you want to kick us off with some of the things that we've learned along the way so far?
Yeah, sure. I'll do the first four, and the first one is lovely. It's that we really learned that we all care. People who came to the assemblies, they did tell us that they experienced a really deep-rooted connection to their neighbourhoods because they were coming together and that they really did want to improve them. So that's really positive, isn't it? And the second one is that people really loved the intergenerational connection that they felt. So younger people and older people coming together in a neighbourhood and learning from one another. The third one is a sense of personal empowerment and self-development. So whether it was that they were getting facilitation training because they were part of the organisational team or because they were coming in and learning about a new and also ancient way of deliberation and decision making, they felt empowered by that. And then the last one I'll talk about is a sense of community cohesion, this glue that you get when you bring people together in one space and then introduce them to an assembly experience. People thought that it was a powerful way of building community cohesion. So they're all really positive things that we learned.
Yeah, well, and just before you come to you, Lucky, I think one of the things that's come up for me recent weeks is people talking about rubbish. So I know you went to visit some people in the Northwest and they talked about fly tipping and rubbish and litter picking and cleaning up communities. And then I met a facilitation and sort of participation design person recently, and she was talking about doing work in a place where they realised that when the streets were more messy and more full of kind of trash or big, particularly I think big amounts of waste like fly tipping, that it made them feel less safe, and that it also correlated after they did a big review. They realized that it actually correlated with when spikes in violent crime or big problems in the community, that all of that sort of tied together. And it feels to me like there's something emerging anyway for me about the conversations we're having about our work and the work that other people have done. It's quite similar about making people feel safer and people wanting those kind of safe places for young people wanting safer places where they can experience green space and nature outdoors and get to it and feel like it's, for them. Also the sort of feeling of safety that you get when you feel like you know your neighbours and when you know people down the road. And there's just, for me anyway, living in London, it's really clear there's lots of places where I've lived where there's no sign that any of the neighbours know any of each other, and that obviously is very isolating and doesn't sound very complicated if all you need to do is talk to some people and then you'll realise that you know them and that it makes you all feel safer, and presumably it sort of can sort of have a wider health improvement of the sort of social fabric of the place. And that, I find it quite staggering how the situation that we're in anyway is one where it's a radical act to listen to people, and it feels like a radically constructive thing to do, to like meet someone who lives near you and have a conversation with them. It makes it feel like, oh, maybe the pressure could get lifted off us because it's not all so technically difficult. It's we need desperately to sort of rebuild lots of connections and stuff like that. Just sort of interested in how simple that idea actually is.
I'm really inspired by John Alexander's kind of subtitle on his book Citizens, which says we are the key to fixing everything. And I love this idea that there's a domino effect of care. If we see more people in our neighbourhoods caring, picking up litter, helping their neighbours, we are more likely to do it because we see people giving a shit about where they live. So therefore we give a shit more about where we live. And that is just, it brings that real kind of deep-rooted humanity that exists in all of us. We do want to care, we do want to be looked after and look after others, but if we don't see it, then we're much more likely to just slip into that, well, no one else cares, so nor do I.
Anyway, sorry, go on, Lachlan.
That's all. I think that's really beautiful, actually. I'm going to talk about some of the kind of learnings that came from what the organisers were, people like yourselves who might be listening, who were organising these assemblies on the ground, doing the work of the project, essentially. What you felt, what you came away feeling, what you experienced, what you learned from engaging in this process. And this was done through a series of interviews and kind of get-together conversations online. And they've been kind of crystallized down into the kind of the key things that came out. So a really big thing that came out was that organizers said it's really hard work. You know, it is a lot of work to put one of these assemblies on. You know, particularly challenging was the outreach being when you're just going out and inviting people to the assembly, you know, knocking on doors, going out leafleting, putting up posters in your area, spending time listening to people out on the street or listening to community groups. It's a lot of work. And that is the kind of, I guess, the work that needs to be done, but that doesn't make it any easier, right? Another thing that emerged out of it was that the way you arranged the environment, the space, the room at the event, at the assembly itself, is really important. It really matters where the biscuits are on the table, and you know, whether there's someone there to greet you as you come into the space, you know, really warmly, and so on and so forth. So actually, like, these really small details, they really matter, and that was something that organizers noticed, is that when they got these things right, people felt more empowered, people felt like they were more connected and more able and willing to participate into the process. The final thing I'll talk about is just some of the really big challenges is really, I think, mostly making it sustainable. So, and this partly is related to like how hard work it is. You know, it's really difficult to sustain these assemblies over a long period of time, especially if you're organizing them once a month or once every 6 weeks, which is a lot of work for the organizers involved, who, as we said, you know, we're all volunteers. So we'll go on to the kind of the next steps, what we're doing for the next phase of the project, but sustainability is going to be a really key focus. And I'll leave it there.
Cool, thanks, Lachlan. I think you know, one of the things that people often talk about with citizens' assemblies especially is that how they can be depolarizing sort of machines. So people go in with their opinions, they might think that they hate another person that's walked in the room for whatever reason. They might find out what their political persuasion is and then go, God, I'm never going to like you, or whatever. And that this sort of process of deliberation and respectful discussion can really, when it's well facilitated and well held, can really sort of soften both sides and get them to see what they've got in common and find agreeable ways forwards, whether that's, something that feels like a compromise or whether it's something where even someone's mind can change. And, I suppose what I'm interested in with this project is that from the beginning we've said that we think in such a fractured and polarized society with people in the sort of highest positions in not only politics, but also other positions of power in business leadership and stuff, really stoking what's been called the culture war, which is really a way to attack your own people. It's actually a very sort of vicious engagement with your own people in a psychological sense. That living in those conditions has made us more and more divided, or more likely to sort of see the faults in one another, and harder to build the bridges. And if we want to be able to do this work in a cost-effective way, because we can't put everyone in a citizens' assembly that costs millions of pounds, then it is really hopeful to me to find out that there's something coming back from these processes that says, yes, we're finding it difficult to get some things to happen, or we're finding the mobilising hard, or the running of them is quite hard work. But if we're finding formats that actually help people see across divides and bridge difference, then we just got to work out how to get more different people in the room. But in theory, we think we're sort of on the journey to finding out how to support people to come together and hopefully do something restorative. So for me, that's really super exciting, that's a positive that's come back out of this bit of the research. All right, cool. We'll come back to the next conversation and we'll talk about what we're planning to do next.